Hello everyone, great to have you here on the channel today. Welcome to this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. We're going to be looking at winter versus spring here. Polar vortex trying to make its presence felt across eastern North America could battle it out with spring. We're going to be looking at severe weather as well. So wintry precipitation, some wet spring snow, and some very big tornado outbreaks. And we'll be looking at your tropical update. We could be looking at our first what looks like a tropical wave here across the eastern Caribbean, and then another one here into the southern Caribbean. We'll take a look at your tropics and more. Let's get into it. All right, so starting off with your future radar here, we're going to look at the winter composite first. Yes, we're actually still talking about some wintry precipitation. Watch through midnight on Sunday night into early Monday morning. We might have some snow breaking out across northeast Ohio here into Erie and Bradford, Pennsylvania, and right along that Route 6, especially northward here. Look at this through 5 a.m. Some of these higher elevations could be picking up a slushy inch or two into the northern Hudson Valley, northern Catskills here, and stretching on into parts of Massachusetts. We could be getting some wet snowflakes. Now look at this feature, 10 a.m., 12 p.m. It does start to mix with rain on the leading edge of this through Toledo, through Cleveland, 4 p.m., that evening rush hour. Watch out. You could be getting some heavy wet snow. This could be dropping a snow squall warning here across northeast Ohio into northwest Pennsylvania through 7 p.m., 8 p.m. And look at this, the leading edge of it making to the I-81 corridor here around the Binghamton area around midnight Monday night. So this spreads to the east. Look at this. This coastal low does try to bring some heavy snow up into parts of Boston and Rhode Island here. We could see this could be kind of interesting. We'll watch it here as it heads off to the northeast, but look at on the backside, some snowflakes, wet snow in these snow belt areas. We might have that lake response kicking in as well. So for your severe weather update, watch this. So yeah, we're going to be watching the Gulf Coast area, in particular Georgia down and through Alabama, the panhandle of Florida through 10 p.m. tonight. This does start to wash out and bog down as we get a wave of low pressure developing. Look at this, heavy rain all the way up to Washington, D.C., these areas through Atlantic City, New Jersey. But look at here. We could be looking at this surge of severe weather continuing as we head through the early morning and mid-morning hours of Monday morning. Look at this through Georgia, through the panhandle of Florida, and eventually the Carolinas. We could be looking at these thunderstorms really taking effect here from North Florida all the way up to the Outer Banks as we head through 10 p.m. on Monday evening. And look at this. This wave of low pressure just rides up along the East Coast, bringing some very beneficial rains through early Tuesday morning here. This does start to begin to move off the coastline here. As you can see, that high pressure builds in. We still have this comma shaped up here into the northeast with that rain and snow mix. Severe weather update for your Sunday. We're looking at a slight risk of severe weather across the areas of the Gulf Coast, north central Gulf Coast through Panama City, just east of New Orleans, and up through parts of Atlanta, Georgia. So watch out, some marginal risk all the way up to Richmond, Virginia here. And heading on into your Monday, that pivots to the east ever so slightly, Tallahassee, Jacksonville, Savannah, Georgia here. And a marginal risk all the way up to parts of the Outer Banks of North Carolina and South Carolina, down and through parts of Florida as well. And for your Tuesday, that spreads across South Florida where there is a marginal risk, especially around the Miami and Florida Keys all the way up to West Palm Beach, Florida. All right, so picking up where our future radar left off here, you can see as we stretch on into the early morning hours of Monday, we're going to see some wet snowflakes here on the northern fringe, northern Pennsylvania, into the central and northern Hudson Valley. This pulls to the northeast, and then we make way for this system, 8 p.m., more snow. This could be prompt some snow squall warnings here. Look at this. This moved through Cleveland around 5 p.m., Buffalo, Rochester, and Pittsburgh by 8 p.m., and Binghamton right around 11 p.m. So we could see a heavier burst of some wet snowflakes here, maybe some accumulation above that 1,200-foot level. Now, look at that wraps up across the northeast. I'll tell you more about that in New Brunswick and my Canadian weather outlook several minutes from now. High pressure builds in across the eastern part of the country, but watch what happens here as we head into the middle of the week, right around Wednesday the 9th. Look at this system pivoting towards Detroit, Cleveland. You could start out as a period of wet snow, and then changing over to rain showers here. Now, this looks a little bit ominous. This looks like a little bit of a convective line, so we could see some thunderstorms firing on the southern end of this. Northern end is a colder rain and some wet snow on the northern fringe here as we head into Thursday and into Friday. You can see ending as a period of wet snow here into parts of Ohio as we head through 2 a.m. on early Friday morning here. Now look at moisture heading up through parts of the Northeast, wet snow here on the backside in those higher elevation snow belt areas. And then we get a coastal low trying to form here right around the Outer Banks, bringing some very beneficial rain here. This is some good news. The Outer Banks up to Virginia Beach, Delmarva area. And this looks to surge next weekend. I know another rainy weekend potentially setting up for the Northeast. Maybe some interior elevation snow as well. We'll have to watch out for that on the backside. But yeah, this looks like a coastal nor'easter type system with that wet snow in the I-81 corridor region, especially here into northern New England as well. We'll be watching this as the potential for some springtime wet snow, especially those elevations above 1,200 feet. That's where the biggest chance of accumulation. I'll be going over those snowfall amounts momentarily here. Here into the Gulf of Maine, right around the 13th into the 14th, this thing gets cranking. So the state of Maine up to New Brunswick really could get some hefty snowfall accumulations here for a springtime storm. And as we just pivot out here through the 15th into the 16th, looks like this next system will be more convective in nature. We'll bring some thunderstorms all the way up to upstate New York, Pennsylvania, Virginia, North Carolina, and that makes it all the way to the Outer Banks into New England here by the 15th into the 16th. And then on the backside, we get another cutoff low type situation trying to go coastal on us with some elevation snow here into parts of eastern New York and New England, and another system diving here across the Ohio Valley. So all in all, we're looking at a very active weather pattern. The next storm right around the 19th on our GFS pushing to the north, but let's see what the GFS has in store here for parts of the lakes into the northeast. So we get this system surging up here towards the northeast and then up into parts of New England. That looks pretty interesting as we go here. We progress on into your 22nd into the 23rd as another coastal low tries to take form. All right, so looking at the European model here, picking up where our future radar left off, you can see our storm across the southeast as we continue into Monday into Tuesday. There's that wet snow on the northern fringe of this system heading on into Monday and on into Tuesday. That short wave moving through with more snow showers. Crazy to think about it here as we head throughout the second week here of April. But look at this, those isobars. You know it, the wind is going to be howling once again here, blasting across the northeast. We'll take a look at those wind gusts momentarily here, but look at this low pressure in the northern Bahamas. That's going to pull down through the Bahamas here. That goes to show you how far south the storm track is. We got this cold high off the U.S. East Coast, and look at this next system. We could be looking at some rain and snow mix here, and some snow showers in Cleveland, Toledo, and over to Erie, Pennsylvania. The mountains of northwest Pennsylvania could be getting some snow here as we head late Wednesday night into early Thursday, and that spreads into the Finger Lakes region, Susquehanna region of New York, and eventually the Adirondacks here. So eventually the warmer air will win out. We get another situation here where we could see some severe weather across the south here as this low pressure dives across the mid-Atlantic and the Appalachians, and it tries to go coastal on us here. You can see here into next Saturday, we could be unfortunately looking at another massively rainy weekend with lots of wind here across the northeast, and this low pressure will head up towards parts of New England. And behind it, we're looking at more cold air. So as we head through April 15th here, yeah, you can see these showers and thunder showers moving through parts of the mid-Atlantic. We might get a little bit of warm air on the eastern side of the system, but for the most part, look at that. The isobars continue to be tightly packed here. That means lots of wind. And look at this. For April 17th, we are looking at another potential severe weather outbreak here for parts of the plains all the way up into the Ohio Valley. Look at this. This storm is a little bit further to the north. It's going to drag a lot of tropical moisture north of it, so we might look for severe all the way up to Lake Erie here. Very narrow area, but that spreads to the East Coast. We do try to get a coastal formation again as we're in that pattern where we could see some wet snowflakes here on the backside, especially in those higher elevations this time of year with this 984 millibar low. All right, so looking at wind here, that's going to be a big factor come Tuesday into Wednesday. We're going to see gusts up to 30, some areas 40 miles an hour interior northeast. Now, as we get later in the week, you can see, look at this. As we get on into Wednesday, early Wednesday, gusts as high as 40, 45, 50 miles an hour out there on Cape Cod. That moves to the east, and watch this. The next storm Friday moving into parts of the Ohio Valley into the northeast. Wind gusts as high as 30, 40 miles per hour here. And then we get another big warming trend across the plains. We get another system in the northeast there. But yeah, as you get the idea, we're going to see a lot of these gusty wind events transpiring. Now, if we're looking at total liquid equivalent precipitation here on our European model, look at this. As we stretch through next week, this week into next week, you can see the storm track here. It's going to be mainly across parts of the Tennessee River Valley, the Appalachians, up into the northeast. We're going to continue these coastal type lows. It is good, though, because look at this. This is going to bring some very beneficial rain to these areas. We're looking at an average of 2 to 4 inches with those yellow and orangish shadings, 4 to as much as 6 inches of liquid equivalent here. That's some good news. And looking at our rainfall amounts here, yeah, this week, there it is, across parts of the southeast into parts of Virginia, anywhere from 2 to 4 inches averaging out here. And as we head through April 22nd, you can see where the storm track is going to be. This is some beneficial rain, though. These red areas averaging out to 2 to 3 inches, with 4 inches into those yellow zones, and those pushing towards the orange zones, we're up towards closer to 6 inches. All right, so let's take a look at those snowfall amounts now here on our GFS model. As we go through just Wednesday here, look at the accumulations we're looking at here. So Cleveland, right around an inch or less. Northern Pennsylvania, 1 to 2, maybe 3 inches in some of these areas above 1,600 feet. And you see this dotted about Adirondacks, White Green Mountain. So this is really interesting. Let's just stretch further here. We get another system moving through southern Michigan here. Could drop some snowfall later week. And then look at this. Through the middle part of the month, signals are starting to show right around the 20th into the 21st. Look at this. This is crazy. GFS going crazy here. Look at this. Showing 7 to 10 inches across northern Ohio. Northwest Pennsylvania. Look at this. I'm not so sure I'm buying this, though. Look at 44 inches just east of Buffalo. St. Lawrence Valley, this is kind of crazy, but it is there. The fact that the signal is showing heavier snow potential here, we have to watch out for this come right around the 20th of the month. Let's take a look at the Euro. Now, if we take a look at the latest run of the GFS here for snowfall, obviously you can see that snow across northern Ohio, southern Michigan, southern Wisconsin, over to the Twin Tiers of New York, Pennsylvania. These higher elevations getting closer to 2, 3, 4 inches above that 1,200 feet level. But watch this as we progress towards the 20th of the month. This run of the GFS has lost that major snowstorm across the Ohio Valley into parts of the interior Northeast and Eastern Great Lakes, but we'll keep an eye on it here. And as we look at the European model here, you can see, yeah, this takes us through, this is later Monday to Tuesday and early Wednesday. Look at this. Here, Cleveland, right around an inch. Erie, 3 to 4 inches. Syracuse, right around 3 to 4. These higher elevations, this is where it's really going to get hit. But you're going to see wet snow in all of these areas. So let's just progress here. There's that next system Thursday night and Friday, dropping more snow on northern Indiana, northern Ohio, northwest Pennsylvania, and upstate New York, northern New England, into New Brunswick here. And then as we just continue through the middle part of the month, yeah, right around the 21st, the Europeans kind of hinting this system holds back across the Midwest and really doesn't drop any additional snow here, so we'll continue to watch it. And looking at our upper air pattern here on our European, troughiness is going to be the rule as we head into the second and third full weeks of April. Look at this trough really digging out across the east. I know many of you have been waiting for spring. It's now time to be spring, and now we're looking at colder temperatures, colder rain, and snow mixing in. You see there, 16th, another trough. And look at that. There's that big, massive trough here right around the 19th and 20th. European doesn't really do much with that, but the GFS does. Let's take a look at the GFS. And looking at our GFS here, there it is, that trough kicking across the lakes of the Northeast come midweek. And each one of these troughs will contain that colder air that it helps manufacture. Now look at the GFS right around the 15th indicates maybe some ridging here along the East Coast. So we might see a warming trend around this time with some systems on the northern fringe. But watch this as we head right towards, you see this right up here, this energy across the Canadian Maritimes and this one diving across the Mississippi River Valley. Watch these come together. Look at that. Yeah, so we get blocking up here into the Canadian Maritimes, and look at this system really blasting off the East Coast here. If we take a look at the NAO index here, you can see we are negative right now. We're going to go positive pretty quickly here, and then neutral, it looks like, through the rest of April. And looking at our MJO index here, things look really interesting because you see we've been hovering right around this 7 and 8 phase. It looks like the models are pretty much taking us like around the center here. So we're going to quickly go, it looks like right around 8, 7. Most of the models are kind of meandering us, between that 1, 8, 7, 6, and 5 here in time. So it's kind of a roll of the dice at this point, but very stormy. So really, what is driving this colder air outbreak here? So as we look at the upper level polar vortex here, essentially what we have going on, if we take a look, we can go out a little bit further here. Look what's happening here through Sunday into Monday into Tuesday this week, Wednesday into Thursday. Here is the cell. It's kind of over the northern part of the Atlantic. I know it's hard to see with these colder colors, but there's the little bit of some light blues. Watch this as it starts to dive across the eastern part of North America. It's going to get pretty interesting here as we head through the middle to latter part of April. It does start to wash out around April 20th, so I'm a little apprehensive to say the GFS is showing a major snowstorm through parts of the Ohio Valley into the interior Northeast, but we'll watch it here because storms can manufacture their own cold air. But there it is. You do see the lighter colors here across northeastern North America. That's indicating cooler conditions as what's left of the polar vortex is trying to make its presence felt. And before we dive into the tropical weather here across the Western Atlantic and Caribbean, don't forget, if you made it this far in the video and you like it, smash that like button, everyone. Really does help. Question or comment down below. I'd love to read your questions or comments. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe bell notification button so you're alerted with all my future weather video updates, especially ahead of this hurricane weather season. I will be getting my Hurricane 2025 Outlook out this month. Watch out for that. Let's continue. All right, so the tropics here, we are looking pretty interesting as we continue through the rest of your Sunday into Monday. You can see what's going on here. We have those couple areas, and I'll show you the European model momentarily here, but there's that front hanging up west of the Yucatan Peninsula here into the Eastern Gulf, and look at this little feature. Keep an eye on this as it gusts towards Trinidad, Tobago, and Grenada here, because we could be looking at kind of like a mini tropical wave here. Look at this. Through Tuesday morning, gusting through parts of the southern Lesser Antilles here, bringing some heavy rain up to St. Lucia here and Martinique. So we'll keep an eye on it here. This looks like a big ball of moisture. The GFS taking this a bit further to the north in the European run. But we'll watch it. It could be providing quite a bit in the way of rainfall. Look at Jamaica and Dominican Republic, though, through Honduras, Central America, Cayman Islands, looking pretty dry. So as we head through the mid to latter part of the week, we do start to moisten things up here across the North Central Caribbean. But look at this. We'll watch this. Look at this flare-up. Sea surface temperatures are running well above average for this time of year. So we'll continue to watch it here. It looks like it's going to entrain some moisture into this front that stalls up here to the north. So we'll watch it. Jamaica, you do start to get more moist next weekend into the early part of the following week. And look at this. As the Lesser Antilles dry out here, it looks like Panama to Costa Rica, Nicaragua, the northern coastline of Honduras, up to Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic, southeastern Bahamas through the Turks and Caicos. We're looking much rainier as we head into that next full week of April through mid-April here. Look at this. Some heavier rains really prominent across the Dominican Republic, Haiti, Puerto Rico, and these areas as this front kind of stalls out and just washes out across the region. Now look at this. Towards the 18th and 19th, things get a lot quieter here. Just some big-time storms here around Cuba popping up with that diurnal heating here. But look at this. It looks like the next trouble spot starts to fill in across the northeastern part of the Caribbean as we head through 20th into the 21st. Look at this. This little feature does look really interesting. Looks a little bit ominous. They could bring some pretty big moisture here to parts of the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and just north of Puerto Rico. So we'll keep an eye on it. A lot can change between now and then. And thanks to Tropical Tidbits here for our European model analysis of the Caribbean and Western Atlantic, Central America, and the Gulf. So as we continue through Sunday into Monday here, you can see those showers. They're pretty much blossoming across parts of Jamaica here, Cayman Islands, and then back towards the Yucatan here with that cold front. And look at down towards Trinidad, Tobago here. Yeah, it's getting kind of wet down here with this little tropical, I don't know if you can call it a tropical wave this early, but yeah, it's a lot of moisture here from South America. Now look at this front here hanging up here on early Tuesday from Cancun down to Belize, and then eventually getting into the northern part of Honduras. Now, this is looking more like a tropical wave here as it gusts right through the Lesser Antilles, the southern Lesser Antilles, Trinidad, Tobago up to Grenada here, and then the northern coastline of the parts of South America here. So look at this moisture streaming northwestward here into the northwestern Caribbean. We're going to continue to watch this as look at this. Very active weather pattern here across the Caribbean. Look at the Eastern Caribbean. This really looks ominous. We'll keep an eye on this here. Not expecting any development, but stranger things have happened with these hurricane seasons starting earlier. But here it is. That front really starts to get bogged down here from northern part of Honduras here all the way up to the northern Bahamas. We'll watch this front as it's going to be the focal point for showers. We do start to get a little bit of shower action maybe around Dominican Republic and to Haiti. Puerto Rico staying pretty dry here, but for the most part, it looks like a drier week here across Dominican Republic with just a few chances of showers as we head towards Thursday. Look at this, though. Essentially, what you have is this northern Caribbean islands area through northern Honduras. You get these chances of showers with the diurnal heating here. Now, as we head through Friday, April 11th here, we do start to see a little bit quieter here into the Eastern Caribbean. Still some scattered showers here throughout the Northeast Caribbean islands here. And look at here through parts of Dominican Republic and Jamaica. We do start to moisten things up next weekend down and through parts of Honduras and Nicaragua here. Watch this front. This may actually stir some things up, but this little feature here bears watching as well. It looks like, potential troughiness here with maybe a tropical wave. You do see right around Monday, April 14th, look at this front. It does try to clip the island of Hispaniola here. So this will bring rain to Haiti and potentially here's Dominican Republic here, but it does get hung up. And look at this. We do start to get this stream of tropical moisture right across parts of Nicaragua, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, eastern Cuba, southeastern Bahamas near the Turks Caicos, right around Haiti and the Dominican Republic. We could be getting some rainfall here, so watch out right around the middle of the month here. That kind of stalls out, kind of remains our trouble spot as we head through the 16th into the 17th, into the 18th. We do start to get a little bit of a drying trend, but look at still scattered showers across the north central and northeastern Caribbean until we get to about the 19th into the 20th. We get this little front trying to dive south, and we do get some shower and thunderstorm action from Jamaica northeastward to Haiti here, so watch out. But look at how dry things start to look here into Central America. Sea surface temperatures are kind of interesting here across the western Atlantic. Things are moderating a bit. However, look at the Gulf. Yeah, the Gulf's looking really hot here. So things are warming up quick as we get those warmer temperatures across the southeast and Gulf Coast states. And look at here across the Caribbean and Western Atlantic. We're still running well above average, about 1 to 2 degrees above average. Gulf is about 3 degrees on average here. But look at here, the Cape Verde season. It is running colder than average. So looking at our European run here for precipitation across the Western Caribbean, ultimately you can see where the heaviest rain is going to be this week. It's going to be the north coast of Honduras. This is where we're going to get upwards of 100 to 200 millimeters of rainfall. Jamaica, you'll be about 10 to 20, maybe 30 millimeters. Same for Dominican Republic and Haiti and Puerto Rico, heading up towards a quarter to a half an inch. Now look at this. As we head through the following week into the middle part of April, you can see what's going to be happening. This is the trouble spot right in here. Southern Belize, northern part of Honduras, all the way through Jamaica, and all the way over to parts of the Dominican Republic and Haiti. This is the areas, if we just zoom in a bit, here's the northern coastline of Honduras. There it is. We're looking upwards of a total, some of these areas, 200 to 250 millimeters of rainfall here. Here's the island of Jamaica, averaging out to about 50 to 80 millimeters on average. Cayman Islands much less, up towards 20 to 30. But look at the island of Hispaniola here. Dominican Republic, some of these higher terrain areas getting closer to 90 to as much as 140 millimeters. Now look at the eastern tip here, much less. And then you head to the northern coastline here, 40 to 50 millimeters. So there it is. And Puerto Rico, you're looking at about maybe a half to 3/4 of an inch on average here. As we head to the Eastern Caribbean, things are a pretty similar situation here. I'm going to focus especially on the southern Lesser Antilles. You do start to moisten up here through the Virgin Islands as well through the middle of the month. But look at here. This area down in through Trinidad, Tobago up to Grenada here. these areas could be seeing upwards, I think, easily 60, 70, 80 millimeters here. You can see we're going to see a big ball of moisture, a tropical wave moving through this area. So we'll watch it here. Even the northeast facing islands here getting upwards of, some of these areas up close to 90 to 100 millimeters here. So we'll watch it. These easterly trade winds continuing with their moisture flow pattern. So for our Canadian weather outlook here, let's superimpose the rain-snow line here as we continue through the rest of your week. Look at this. Yeah, this short wave is going to bring a heavier burst of snow squalls here, heading south and eastward across parts of southern Ontario, affecting everywhere from Toronto up to Ottawa here, and then Montreal. As we stretch on into your Tuesday, this is going to wind up across New Brunswick, Nova Scotia in the form of some gusty snow showers into the Canadian Maritimes. Now, our next system looks like mostly rain-snow mix across the central prairies here through Saskatchewan, all the way through Manitoba here. So Saskatchewan through Manitoba, Alberta. We'll be looking at some scattered rain and snow showers here. And look at southern Ontario as we head into April 10th here. We're looking at some heavy wet snow developing north of Toronto and London here up to Ottawa and Montreal. New Brunswick getting some heavy snow here. Eventually, the warmer air does start to win out across the southern part of the province here. But look at that, some gusty showers moving up through. Now, look at the rest of Canada. It looks pretty quiet at this point with the exception for this Pacific storm. Very active here into southeast Canada. Look at this through the 13th. More snow breaking out across Quebec City here and to northern New Brunswick. Pretty interesting weather pattern we're in here with these coastal systems. We get a blizzard type scenario setting up across Saskatchewan, Manitoba area through central part of Ontario. So watch this system. This could really blast up, wind up, and bring some heavy snow. And eventually some rain showers here across southern Ontario and Quebec as that rain-snow line pivots. But there it might be ending as a period of wet snow across Nova Scotia through April 18th here. Another system diving across Ontario and Quebec. It looks like mostly rainfall at this point. But you get the idea. Stormy times are ahead, especially across southeast Canada, where we're really going to fill in a lot of moisture here. This by the 22nd rain-snow line all the way up to Hudson Bay. And looking at our Canadian snowfall totals here, we're going to be looking at a lot of snow. Obviously, the mountains of the west coast here, British Columbia, getting upwards of those 50, 60 centimeters plus. But look at here into southeast Canada, especially as we head towards the middle to latter part of the month. We could be looking at a bonanza of snowfall here from southern parts of Saskatchewan, Manitoba, into central Ontario, and even southern Ontario, Quebec here, New Brunswick especially. Look at this. Into the Canadian Maritimes. Some of these areas could be approaching 25 to as much as 40 plus centimeters of snowfall. So looking at our temperature profile here, this is where the warm air is going to hold on to coastal parts of the Carolinas down through Florida. 80s, mid to high 80s, near 90 in some of these locations. Look at this colder air behind it though, 60s in New Orleans. This is going to pivot to the east here. You see this colder air across the lakes and into the northeast. Yeah, that's prevalent Tuesday. We might see some wet snow mixed in, maybe some accumulation. Kind of crazy to think about this, yes. But look at the warming trend behind it here as we head into Wednesday. This is going to fuel those severe weather outbreaks across much of the south. But look at the lakes in the northeast. We're actually averaging a bit below average with 40s and 50s. We do start to see a warming trend here, getting rid of a lot of those 40s in favor of 50s here. So looking a little bit better. Look at the warm air here across the south as we head into Friday. We do see that cooler air slipping down into through parts of the Appalachians, upper 50s for highs, all the way up into the Great Lakes and the Northeast. We're going to see a very unsettled weather pattern as we continue here. Look at this. Warm air blasting up through the plains into the 70s. Extended forecast from hometown viewers, Binghamton to Scranton, Upper Susquehanna, River Valley, New York, and Pennsylvania. Rain, rain, and more rain, and colder temperatures. Actually, the only day we're going to see no rain is Wednesday. But look at this. Monday into Tuesday, we could see some snowflakes, wet snow mixing in. I'm not expecting too much of accumulation here, but that's about it. Maybe up to a half an inch in the higher elevations above 1,000 feet. But look at this. As we head through Thursday and Friday, do we see any warming trend? A little bit. By the end of the week, we'll be mid to high 50s. But more rain is likely. And before we continue with more weather coverage, check out these amazing, awesome maps from my affiliate here. I am proud to announce that I am now an affiliate with Trilogy Maps. TrilogyMaps.com, bringing you the most digital, customizable maps found nowhere else on the internet. These maps are simply stunning. It's an advanced layering system that makes these maps great for making forecast maps with ease or any other maps that you would like to display important information on. The resolution on these maps is simply amazing. From the detail of everything here in the States, and you can also create stunning, digital, professional layered maps from also across the entire world. And don't forget, in checkout, the discount code option, use my code, MeteoMark, hit apply, and you will get 20% off your order. So if you want the most professional, customizable, and affordable weather maps found nowhere else on the internet, look no further than TrilogyMaps.com. Link in the description down below along with your discount code. As always, thank you for joining me for this edition of MeteoMark's Weather. Also, don't forget to join me on Facebook at MeteoMark, also Weather Northeastern, also Twitter at Weather Eastern. Don't forget it's MeteoMark.com, and don't forget, if you want to send me a coffee, there is a link, Super Thanks. You can smash that Super Thanks button or my PayPal link in the description down below. You can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks everyone. Share that video, subscribe if you haven't, smash that like button.